Can an emergency happen while your staff is on the exterior of the building? Yes. How do we let them know if there's an emergency? How do we prevent them from walking back into an emergency? Part of that is to utilize all of the communication devices that you have. I would venture a guess the majority of the folks in this room all have a mass communication device. That being, these alerts, these programs. I am sure you can program them to parents. I'm sure you could program them specific to buildings. I'm sure you could program them to staff to be able to do our best to get that communication out to staff to say, hey, we have a problem in the building, outside of the building. We're in a lockout situation. Staff may not know until they're at your front door. So this is another piece to think about. The other one that we have to get out to is the parents. Nationwide statistics, if you look at most of these emergencies, one of the biggest complaints parents get is you don't tell us what's going on. There's not enough information. And what happens if we don't tell parents what's going on? Somebody said it. They show up, or they'll make up their own story. So we go from the possibility of a coyote in our backyard, and we're going to lockout, to we're getting invaded by terrorists. And if we don't put some information out there and give them something, they will make up their own story. But we've got to at least, at the same time, have some generic communication pieces that could be pre-recorded. These things could be pre-recorded to just push 2 buttons and get something out to parents. Now, you know as well as I do, you're going to have those handful of parents that are going to get this and still call the school and say, what was that about? And you want to say to them, why don't you listen to the message? But as best we can, we have to get some type of communication out. What does this establish? What does this do for us? We are in accordance with district emergency management protocols. What message are we sending? We got it. We got protocols in place. We know how to handle this. We've been placed in lockout. There's no specifics as to why. We're in lockout. All outside activities have been moved inside the building. We're normal operations. We're sending a message to these parents that, hey, we got it. They may want to show up. We're in lockout. Something's going on. Everybody's safe. Everything's normal inside. We'll kind of follow up with you. Everyone's safe and accounted for. And the campus is temporarily closed to all vehicular and pedestrian traffic. All non-emergency visits to the building will be suspended until the lockout is lifted. You are sending them that message that, hey, you got to kind of stay away, too, because if we're in official lockout, we really are not going to be letting parents come knocking on the door because those non-emergency visits are going to be suspended at the time. And you put that last piece, we will follow up with further information. And that's what you need to do. You definitely need to follow up with that further information. Don't leave people hanging. And at the same time, John brings up a great point, which if this were to go out by a district office administrator or a real head administrator that may not be building-based, the follow-up, once it's done, should be the voice of somebody in the building. Because that adds to the comfort level of, wait a minute, to John's point, I got a message from the assistant superintendent or the superintendent saying something's going on, but now I got a message from somebody in the interior of the building saying everything's okay. That's a nice piece to have as well. But to be able to have these communications and not have to fumble with, what do we tell everybody? I'll jump back. And again, these are in the back of your book. Be as generic as possible. You're giving them something.